Hi, this is Janmajay and this is day 7th of my communication practice. And for the communication practice, I am reading this book called Man's Search for Meaning by Viktor E. Frankl. And this was written in 1945. This book is about the author's experience in the concentration camp and the torture he faced in the Nazi Germany era. And the author was living in Vienna, Austria, and he had a degree in psychiatry, but all this was basically thrown in the garbage because in the Nazi Germany, Jews were treated not justly and they were killed. And there is a number that is often quoted, which is 6 million Jews were killed in the Second World War by Nazi Germany. And in the second part of the book, the author talk about logotherapy, and this therapy or this kind of philosophical or thought process was developed before his experience in the Nazi Germany camp, and he actually tested his theory during the incarceration in the camp. And the author also talked about that this is not the factual description, but rather facts of and accounts of what he felt, and it was very difficult to be unbiased because what he and his fellow prisoners faced there in the prison. So let's start. Thus, the illusions some of us still had were destroyed one by one, and then, quite unexpectedly, most of us were overcome by grim sense of humor. We knew that we had nothing to lose except our so ridiculously naked life. When the showers started to run, we all tried very hard to make fun both about ourselves and about each other. After all, real water did flow from the sprays. Apart from that strange kind of humor, another sensation seized us: curiosity. I have experienced this kind of curiosity before as a fundamental reaction towards certain strange circumstances. When my life was once endangered by a climbing accident, I felt only one sensation at the critical moment: curiosity. Curiosity as to whether I should come out of it alive or with a fractured skull or some other injuries. Cold curiosity predominated even in Auschwitz, somehow detaching the mind from its surroundings, which came to be regarded with a kind of objectivity. At that time, one cultivated this state of mind as a means of protection. We were anxious to know what would happen next and what would be the consequence, for example, of our standing in the open air in the chill of autumn, late autumn, stark naked and still wet from the showers. In the next few days, our curiosity evolved into surprise that we did not catch cold. There were many similar surprises in store for new arrivals. The medical man among us learned first of all textbooks tells lies. Somewhere it is said that man cannot exist without sleep for more than a stated number of hours. Quite wrong. I had been convinced that there were certain things I could just couldn't do. I could not sleep without this, or I could not live with that or the other. The last night in Auschwitz, we slept in beds which were constructed in tiers. On each tier or tire, measuring about 6.5 to 8 feet, slept 9 men. Directly on the boards, 2 blankets were shared by each 9 men. We could, of course, lie only on our sides, crowded and huddled against each other, which had some advantages because of the bitter cold. Though it was forbidden to take shoes up to the bunks, some people did use them secretly as pillows in spite of the fact that they were caked with mud. Otherwise, one's head had to rest on the crook of almost dislocated arm. And yet, sleep came and brought oblivion and relief from pain for a few hours. I would like to mention a few similar surprises on how much we could endure. We were unable to clean our teeth, and yet, in spite of that and a severe vitamin deficiency, we had healthier gums than ever before. We had to wear the same shirt for a half year until they had lost all appearance of being shirts. For days, we were unable to wash, even partially because of frozen winter water pipes, unable to, and yet the sores and abrasions on hands were dirty from work in the soil did not suppurate. That is, unless there was frostbite. Or for instances, a light sleeper which who used to be disturbed by slightest noise in the next room now found himself lying pressed against a comrade who snored loudly a few inches from his ear and yet slept quite soundly throughout the noise. If someone now asked us the truth of Dostoevsky's statement that flatly defines men as being who can get used to anything, we would reply yes, a man can get used to anything. But do not ask us how. But our psychological investigations have not taken us that far yet. Neither had we prisoners reached that point. We were still in the first phase of our psychological reactions. The thought of suicide was entertained by nearly everyone, if only for a brief time. It was born of the hopelessness of the situation, the constant danger of death looming over us daily and hourly, and the closeness of death suffered by many of us others. From personal convictions, which will be mentioned later, I made myself a firm promise on my first evening in the camp that I would not run into the wire. This was a phrase used in camp to describe the most popular method of suicide, touching the electrically charged barbed wire fence. It was not entirely difficult for me to make this decision. There was little point in committing suicide, since for the average inmate, life expectation, calculating objectively and counting all likely chances, was very poor. He could not, with any assurance, expect to be among the small percentage of men who survived all the selections. The prisoners of Auschwitz, in the first phase of shock, did not fear death. Even the gas chambers lost their horrors for him after the first few days. After all, they spared him the act of committing suicide. So basically, this was our first few days of experience by prisoners that were in the concentration camp, and people who used to have luxuries in life, they said they used to think that they cannot survive without this or that. They were surviving fine with all the hardship that came into the picture. People were like they were accustomed or became habitual of their surroundings, and the only thing that remained with them was their curiosity, that okay, now we can survive this sort of hardship, we can survive that also. So it was kind of a revelation to them that this could be themselves, like their body was reacting to the surroundings, atmosphere and hardship, and they were able to accommodate that. And every person who went to the camp at one point or other, they thought about committing suicide. And the author also made themselves a pact on the first evening that he won't run into the wire, means like he won't commit suicide by touching the wire or going to the wire which was electrically charged, because he had a family to look forward to after the war. And he also said that in the tough times, mind has a coping mechanism to joke, to kind of create humor in misery, so that they can survive the most difficult situations in life. And this was day 7th of my communication practice, and we'll discover other hardship that were faced by the author in the concentration camp, and probably will explore his logotherapy theory of psychology also. So yeah, that's it for now. Thanks. Bye.